I still remember the exact second my world tilted. It wasn't during an argument or after a confession, or even when I saw the proof later. It was when I reached out to hug my wife, my best friend for 12 years, and she flinched. "Don't touch me," she said. Just 3 words. Softly spoken, but they landed like a hammer. No anger in her voice, no disgust. Just a tired, hollow plea. I froze mid-step, my arms half raised, watching her back away like my touch burned. "Hey, what's wrong?" I asked, forcing a chuckle that sounded painfully out of place in our silent kitchen. "Rough day." She didn't look at me. She stared at the kettle as it hissed and clicked, waiting for the boil that never seemed to come. "I'm just tired, Daniel," she murmured. "Please. Not now." And that was it. She poured herself tea, walked upstairs, and closed the bedroom door. I stood there, surrounded by the hum of the refrigerator and the faint smell of her jasmine perfume, a scent that once meant home. Now it only smelled like distance. That night, I lay in bed beside her, the gulf between us wide enough to fit a stranger. She faced the wall, her breathing slow and even, like she'd already escaped to a place I couldn't reach. I used to know everything about her. The rhythm of her sighs, the way she'd curl her toes when she was anxious, the small sound she made when I brushed her hair off her face. But now, she was silent. Unreachable. I told myself it was work stress. Or exhaustion. Or maybe I'd done something wrong without realizing. But somewhere beneath all that denial, something darker stirred. Something that whispered, "She's not yours anymore." The next morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. "Morning," she said, pouring coffee without looking at me. "Do you want some?" Her tone was polite. Too polite. Like I was a guest. "Sure," I said, searching her face for anything. Smile. Flicker of warmth. A trace of the woman who used to reach for me before I even opened my eyes. Instead, she handed me the mug, her fingers brushing mine briefly. Cold, hesitant, and sat across the table. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "Daniel, I need your help." My heart kicked. Maybe she's opening up. "Of course," I said quickly. "Anything." She hesitated, then met my eyes for the first time in days. "I need your signature on some financial papers. For the car." That was it. "No, I'm sorry for last night." No explanation for her coldness. Just business. The words slipped out before I could stop them. "Is that all you need from me now?" Her jaw tightened. "Don't start, please. I can't deal with this right now." "Can't deal with what?" I snapped, the mug clattering against the table. "Me trying to figure out what's happening to us?" She stood abruptly, eyes flashing, not with anger but with guilt. "Daniel, please." And then she was gone again, grabbing her keys, the sound of her heels echoing down the hall until the front door shut behind her. I didn't follow her. Not that day. But I should have. Because that was the day everything began to unravel. For the next week, she grew more distant. Coming home late. Spending more time at the office. Always on her phone, smiling faintly at texts she never shared. When I asked who she was talking to, she'd say, "Just work," and change the subject. It wasn't just the lies. It was how easy they came to her. The woman who once confessed her every thought to me now guarded her phone like a secret life depended on it. And maybe it did. One night, around midnight, I heard the soft buzz of her phone on the nightstand. She was in the shower. I shouldn't have looked. God knows I didn't want to be that husband. The paranoid, insecure man who checks his wife's phone for reassurance. But I did. The screen lit up with a message. "Can't stop thinking about last night. You're impossible to forget." The name was saved under a single letter. M. My hands went cold. For a moment I couldn't even breathe. The world blurred at the edges, soundless and sharp. I didn't open the thread. I didn't need to. That one message was enough to gut me. When she came out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, humming softly, I sat there staring at the floor. "Everything okay?" she asked. I looked up at her, the woman I had loved for nearly half my life, and forced a nod. "Yeah," I said. "Everything's fine." For the next 3 days, I lived in silence, smiling when I had to, nodding when she spoke, pretending I didn't see the truth flickering behind every half-smile and phone call. But inside something was breaking, slowly, methodically. You never realize how much someone fills your world until they start pulling themselves out of it, piece by piece. Then came Saturday. She said she had to meet a client for brunch, something urgent. So I followed her. Not out of anger. Not even out of jealousy. I just needed to know. She drove downtown, parked near a small cafe, and walked inside. And there he was. A man, maybe mid-30s, with that easy, careless confidence I hadn't seen in her eyes for months. She smiled when she saw him, that same soft, radiant smile she used to give me. When he stood to hug her, she didn't say, "Don't touch me." She melted into him. Right there in broad daylight, in the middle of a cafe filled with laughter and clinking cups, I watched my wife lean into another man's arms like she belonged there. I didn't confront them. Couldn't. I just turned around and left. The air thick in my lungs, my vision burning. Felt like drowning, slow, silent, irreversible. That night she came home late again. She smelled like rain and perfume, and someone else's cologne. I sat on the couch, waiting. She froze when she saw me. "Oh, you're still up." "I wanted to talk," I said quietly. "Daniel, I'm tired." "No," I interrupted. "You're not tired. You're done." Her lips parted. "What are you talking about?" "I saw you," I said simply. "At the cafe." The silence that followed was deafening. She didn't deny it. Didn't cry. Didn't even look surprised. She just sat down across from me, her shoulders sinking. "I didn't want you to find out like this," she whispered. That sentence, "I didn't want you to find out like this," was worse than the betrayal itself. Because it meant she'd already accepted what she'd done. She just hoped I'd stay ignorant enough not to make her face it. "How long?" I asked. "A few months," she said, voice breaking. "It wasn't supposed to happen. I just felt so lost, Daniel. You were distant. You didn't notice me anymore." I laughed bitterly. "You mean I didn't compete hard enough for attention in my own marriage?" Tears filled her eyes. "It wasn't about that. I tried to fight it. By sleeping with him." Snap. "That's some fight." She buried her face in her hands. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But I couldn't hear her anymore. Not really. Her words felt distant, meaningless. Because the woman crying in front of me wasn't my wife anymore. She was a stranger wearing her face. The next morning she asked for my forgiveness. And my signature. For what? I asked numbly, though I already knew. She slid the divorce papers across the table. "I don't deserve your kindness," she whispered. "But please, don't make this harder." I stared at the papers for a long time. At the trembling ink where her name was already signed. At the empty line where mine was supposed to go. Then I looked up at her, really looked. This woman once laughed so hard she cried at midnight movies with me. She danced barefoot in the kitchen, fell asleep on my chest during thunderstorms, whispered that I made her feel safe. Now she was asking me to let her go, because she'd already left long before she said it. I picked up the pen, my hand shaking, and signed. She exhaled, relief mixing with guilt. "Thank you," she said softly. I didn't respond. As she stood to leave, she hesitated at the door. "Daniel," she said, her voice breaking, "for what it's worth, you were a good man." I smiled faintly. "Then why wasn't that enough?" She didn't answer. It's been 6 months since she walked out of that house. I've deleted her number, boxed up her things, and learned how to sleep in a bed that feels too big. Some nights, I still wake up expecting to hear her breathing beside me. But all I hear is silence. A silence I'm learning to live with. I've stopped asking why. Some betrayals don't come with reasons. Just consequences. But every now and then, when I catch a trace of jasmine in the air, I remember that moment in the kitchen. When she said, "Don't touch me." I thought she was protecting herself. Now I know she was protecting her secret. And me. I was just the last thing she needed to let go of before she was gone.